Hi, I'm Michelle Atkinson. I'm the Environmental Horticulture Agent here in Manatee County, and we're going to talk about the law and license for the Limited Commercial Landscape Maintenance Pesticide License. Okay, give me just 1 second. I'm going to share my presentation screen with you. Here we go. Okay, so the laws and regulations. The agency that is responsible for your license is FDACS, the Florida Department of Ag and Consumer Services. So they are the governing agency that will issue you your license, make sure you have your proper CEUs. You need to be in contact with them to make sure that they have your correct address, phone number, email, so that they can send you your renewal notices or any important information. There are 2 chapters of pesticide law that pertain to applicators. One is the 487, which is the restricted use products. This doesn't pertain to this particular license, but if you have any of these other licenses, like the ornamental and turf, that allows you to apply to cemeteries, ball fields, parks, then that falls under a whole different chapter of the law. Your license falls under this structural license or limited use license. So this means that you can apply within 10 feet of a structure or a building. You cannot apply to the building itself, but you can apply within those 10 feet of the building. The law, or the chapter 42, covers several licenses. One is the Commercial Pest Control Operator License, which we'll talk about in the next slide. Your license, the LCLM, and then there's the Limited Lawn and Ornamental License. That license is for folks who work for one entity, like government, or let's say a mobile home park, where they're paid by that entity, the mobile home park, let's say. The mobile home park buys their pesticide, purchases their application equipment, and they only apply to that mobile home property owned by the mobile home park. So in that case, all the liability is contained, so they can get a different license that will allow them to apply to turf and use restricted use products, which you can't do either of those things with this license. So a pest controller or control operator license is actually a pesticide company. Those big trucks you see with the big tanks on the back and the guys that go home to home, or what we call route to route, spraying turf, they are working under somebody with a PCO license. This license is, I call it the Mac Daddy license. It's hard to get. You have to work for someone who has the license for 3 years. You have to show records of pesticide application and that you were paid by the company during those 3 years. Then you have to sit for the test. The test costs $300 and is a 4-hour time allotment for the test. We have a great prep class for this test in a POPCA at our Pest Management University. So if you're wanting to try to take this, get this license, number one, you have to work under somebody for 3 years, unless you've taken some college classes in like entomology. I believe you have to have 20 hours of entomology or a like topic. And then you only have to work 1 year under someone with a PCO license. But either way, you have to work under somebody with a license and then sit for the exam. So with this license, the LCLM, or Limited Commercial Landscape Maintenance License, the law actually states that you can apply herbicide, insecticides, or fungicides with the caution signal words. So no restricted use, only caution labels. And it also states in plant beds. Okay, so only in plant beds, no turf applications. Right, so this license allows you to go route to route, home to home to home, applying insecticide, or excuse me, pesticides in plant beds only of your clients. Application equipment is limited to a handheld pump sprayer or a backpack sprayer. Again, it has to be hand pumped, no power equipment. There are battery operated backpack sprayers now, but that battery supplies power to a pump. So that's considered a power equipment, and you can't use that under this license. And this license does not allow you to operate a pest business. To take the exam. You're going to pay $150 again to FDACS, the Florida Department of Ag and Consumer Services, and we have all the information of how to apply for the voucher to take the exam contained in this class online. You'll need proof of insurance. We'll talk about that in the next slide. 6 hours of training, which you're doing right now, and it's an annual renewal or yearly renewal for this license. So you'll have to pay $75 a year to renew it, and you'll have to have continuing education units, 4 of them. So it equates to roughly 4 hours of training that you'll have to complete every year. So the insurance is listed here. You can see the categories and the amounts of general liability that you're going to have to carry on your company to be able to have this license. You're going to have to, and this is a very important piece, put FDACS as a certificate holder on the policy. This document then you'll upload when you apply for your voucher, or you can upload it later. You can go ahead and get a voucher without it, but they're not going to send you a license until you upload this document. So until all your documentation is complete, they will not send you a license. For recertification, I talked about the 4 CEUs. So you'll need 4 CEUs, 2 in the core category and 2 in the landscape or limited commercial landscape maintenance, LCLM category. So when you see a class offer, just be sure that they're advertising the proper CEUs for you for your license. Again, it's an annual renewal. They do allow a 30-day period after your expiration date to still go ahead and obtain some CEUs. So you actually have 13 months, but if you wait for that grace period, that 13th month, you're going to pay $50 extra. Okay, so don't do that. Also, if you get your CEUs within the time frame, but you don't pay for your license, you have up to 18 months to pay for the license, still paying that late fee. But if you don't either get your CEUs within 13 months or pay for your license with your CEUs obtained during that 13 months within 18 months, then you have to retest and pay the $150 over again. Okay, so just to kind of cover, with this license, you can apply pesticides in beds, in plant beds, okay? You can perform IPM, which we talked about in previous modules, on ornamentals, and you can use pesticides with the caution label. Also, you can use a 3-gallon handheld sprayer or a 5-gallon backpack sprayer to apply. You cannot operate a pest control business, apply pesticides to the turf, use powered equipment, or supervise unlicensed applicators. As a person in the company, you can supervise other people in the company, but you cannot ask them to apply pesticide under your license. That's supervising unlicensed applicators. The handling of pesticides requires a license. Handling includes transport, mixing and loading, and application. So you can't ask somebody to bring you something out in the field unless they're a licensed applicator. If an FDACS inspector pulls them over, if it's on the truck, the assumption is they're using it, so they can get a ticket for that. So you can't supervise or ask anybody to apply transport or mix and load for you unless they have a license themselves. Your license is only for you. If you, receive infractions, they can revoke your license. And if they do that, it'll be 3 years before you can apply for another one. It takes quite a bit for this to happen. They don't like to do that. It's the last resort. These are some of the ways that you can get your license revoked, especially multiple infractions. So if an FDACS inspector pulls you over, be courteous and be honest. They have test kits in their truck. They can put a test strip in, they can collect a sample in a vial and send it off to a lab. If you're applying something you're not supposed to, like a restricted use product, they'll figure it out. So don't lie to them. You're going to get a ticket if you lie to them. You may or may not get a ticket if you're honest, but you're absolutely going to get a ticket if you lie to them. So be honest. A lot of times they use it as an educational opportunity. Sometimes, however, they don't. But your best chance is just to be, you know, kind and courteous, and honest. And most of the cases, it works out fine. Okay. So when you apply and make application of a pesticide, you have to, by law, put up a sign. These signs have some rules about them. So one is it has to be in a conspicuous location. What is a conspicuous location? Well, someplace where you can see it, not behind the bushes, not behind, you know, the back of the house, but right up front in a conspicuous location. This is so folks keep their pets and children out of these areas. So when do you put this sign out? At the time of application. That's what the law states. At the time of application in a conspicuous location. When can you pull the sign back up? Well, the inspectors tell me when the application is dry. So a lot of times folks will have their client pull the sign and just put it in the garage, and they'll pick it up on their next visit. The signs have some rules about them as well. So they have to be 4 inches by 5 inches. They have to be big enough to read. They have to be rigid and weatherproof, and they have to have contrasting background, meaning you can't have a black background with black letters because you couldn't read that. So you need to be able to know that there was a pesticide application put there. It also needs to include your name. So the sign in this presentation, you can find these in a lot of places, at local retail stores, online. And you can just use a Sharpie to write your name on these. Some companies use this as a marketing opportunity, so they get them made with their company name and phone number and all put on them. But either way, your name needs to be on it as the applicator. So I want to talk to you about this registry of prior notification. This is for folks who have a real problem with pesticides, not the folks that are, you know, this week giving up pesticides, but the folks that have had a documented reaction to a pesticide. So they go to their doctor fills out paperwork, they have to pay money to the state to go on this list. Once they do that, you as an applicator have to give them notification before you apply chemical. So you have to notify them that you're going to apply. They can't tell you no. They can't prevent you from doing your job. You just have to tell them that you're going to apply so that they can do something with themselves. Get out of the area, you know, go away for the day, whatever they need to do to protect themselves. They just need to be notified, and then it's on them. So there's rules that govern this, and that is, number one, there's several ways to notify them. You can do so by mail, telephone, in person, hand delivery, email, fax. There's contact information for some of them put their email that you can do it that way. You need to tell them the type of pesticide you're applying, where you're applying it to, and they have to be notified at least 24 hours in advance. Now I'm going to share the website where you can get this information. Share. Okay, so you can see here that it's geodata.freshfromflorida.com, and when you go there, you'll click on this data tab. And you can see it's got everybody in the state listed here. I'm going to take this bar, slide it over to county. And if you just hit county, it's going to alphabetize them by county. But I'm going to hit filter with this little funnel, go over here to county, hit Manatee because that's where I'm at, hit enter. And here are my folks. Okay, slide back over. Here are the names of the folks that I would have to give prior notification in case of a pesticide application. So it gives you their name, address, phone number. Some of them give a fax, some of them give an email, some of them don't. So you need to notify them again 24 hours in advance. Here's the thing I really want to show you on here. The distance, that's very important. So we have 4 folks on this list that if you apply next door, adjacent property, you have to notify them. But we have several folks that have this half mile or quarter mile. The half mile is the radius from their property. So from this person's address, if you're applying within 1/2 mile radius around, so you make a circle that's a half mile around, if you're applying within that half mile from their house, you have to notify this person. Okay, there is a GIS map on the site that you can look at addresses and actually see if the address falls within that area. Or you can if you go to the resources in this module, I've put the link to this website and also a link to get the actual memo and a PDF copy so that you can print it and carry it in your trucks. But it's really important that these folks be notified. And again, it is 24 hours in advance. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. Okay. Record keeping. You must keep records of your applications. You'll need to put the pests that you were trying to control, the area where it was treated, plus the methods and materials applied. So aphids in a plant bed with a handheld sprayer, spray to wet, and whatever insecticide you use for that, or soap or oil. FDACS can ask at any time for your records, so you'll have to maintain records of your applications and keep them for 2 years. So if ever they ask you for them, that's necessary. I also, in the resource page, have put a sample of the bookkeeping form so that you can see what they're looking for. You can just use their form if you want to, or you can make sure that those topics are on your form because that's what they're looking for. Okay, any client can ask what you're applying in their landscape, and these are the things that you need to give them if they request. So they would, you would have to give them who's applying, the name of the licensed applicator, the common or trade name of the pesticide, the common name of the active ingredient, and any safety information from the label. Again, at any time they can request this, and you are required to provide it. So where can you apply as a LCLM applicator? Well, you can apply, again, caution use products, no restricted use products, and again, in your ornamental plant beds, okay? But you can do the sidewalk and driveway treatment, those little cracks, you know, in the sidewalk and driveway that get weeds. You can treat those areas, but here's where you have to be very careful. Do not spray up on the side of a building. So let's say you have a client who has ants and you're spraying the landscape bed and even the driveway. You cannot spray up onto the side of the building because that requires a different license. That is a PCO license for a general household product, and you don't have that. So you can't apply there. You cannot apply any weed and feed turf product. Number one, you can't apply to turf, period. But if you do have a fertilizer application, you can apply fertilizer to turf with that fertilizer license. But you can't include a weed product because that is a pesticide to turf, and you're not allowed to do that. That takes a PCO license or someone working under a PCO to make those types of applications. So no weed and feed. No golf courses, at athletic fields, parks, cemeteries, because again, those are turf areas that takes the O&T license. When you're transporting chemicals, you need to make sure they're in a locked box, not rolling around the back of the truck, not someplace where little Johnny can roll up on his big wheel and take the glove. You're going to get in big trouble for that. So keep them locked up. Never store them in the passenger compartment of your vehicle. They can, you know, if you get in an accident, you'll have cuts and scratches. This bottle's probably going to burst, and now you have pesticide flowing into your cuts and scratches. Also, the product can turn into a gas in our heat. It can volatilize, and then you get in the car and you're breathing those gases. So don't leave them in the passenger compartment of the car. You'll need to have the STS or safety data sheet with you along with the label. The safety data sheet gives information on cleanup and first aid. So if you have a problem, the first responders will look for that. Keep a spill kit with your PPE in it. Labels must be readable. And again, don't carry chemicals outside of your license. If you have a restricted use chemical in your vehicle, the inspector is going to assume you're applying it and give you a ticket. A couple of other licenses that you'll want to be aware of is the fertilizer license, the urban fertilizer license. To get this license, you have to take the Green Industry Best Management Practices class, or GIBMP class. It is a 5-hour class, and you can do so online, in person, or order a DVD. In the resources section of this module, I've put a link to the different types of training from our statewide website, so you can decide what's best for you. You must excuse me, you must pass the exam at the end of the course, and then you have to apply for a license through FDACS. It's $25. So anytime you apply fertilizer for hire, you're getting paid to do it, you have to have a fertilizer license, and that's in the whole state of Florida. This license is good for 4 years, and it requires 4 CEUs for renewal, 2 core and 2 in the category of fertilizer. The last license that you might want to be aware of is if you find yourself holding plants in your yard and you're selling them to your clients, you may need a nursery stock dealer's license. And so the information is here. You can look it up on FDACS to see if you'll need this and how to apply for it. These are the resources I've used to create this PowerPoint. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in future modules.